over the weekend, Senator Murphy from Connecticut announced on Twitter that they had reached a bipartisan deal, because the most important thing in the world that we get a bipartisan deal. Now, what's the deal? Well, it's a bad deal.
It's how you come to the deal. It's the friends you make along the way in the bipartisanship, not the actual substance of the legislation itself.
And here we go. Let's do this.
We reached a compromise over the weekend that will save lives. I understand that part of the news here is the breakthrough, because I think you're right. This does allow us to break this log jam, and it allows us to be set up for future success. But the content of this compromise in and of itself will save lives. The ability to help states pass red flag laws will stop thousands of suicides and homicides. The closing of the boyfriend loophole means that domestic abusers, boyfriends that beat up their girlfriends, won't be able to buy guns. The protections for 21 and under buyers, that means that there's a pause for any 18 to 20-year-old who is going into a store to try to buy an AR-15, like the Uvalde shooter, an ability for the police department to intervene. And then the mental health spending is going to be transformative in and of itself. We're talking about billions of new dollars for mental health, a lot of it going to underserved communities. That's going to save lives, too.
Are very reasonable.
All right. So that's, there's the deal. And it is, it remains to be seen that it's going to do those things, frankly. If there is even a slight bit, I guess there is some value in it. Although, it is very hard to get past the idea that they're doing this to make it look like they're doing something. And let's be clear, the impediment to them doing something is the Republican Party. Period. End of story. Let's talk about the 10 people, the 10 Republicans who signed off on this. Roy Blunt of Missouri. Roy Blunt of Missouri is retiring. Again, we've said this many times on this program, that the only way you get to see how you get to see a Republican do anything worth anything for anyone else is if their political career is either so ironclad that they are completely safe and secure, or they have ended their political career. So Roy Blunt of Missouri, retiring. Richard Burr of North Carolina, retiring. Rob Portman of Ohio, retiring. Patrick Toomey of Pennsylvania, retiring. Tom Tillis of North Carolina, retiring. John Cornyn of Texas. Maybe he can threaten a federal judge again. Was it him who threatened the federal judge on the floor of the Senate? I don't know, about maybe 10 years ago. But he is in Texas. He's pretty locked up and safe. Susan Collins and Lindsey Graham, they got elected 2 years ago. Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, same situation. It is only Mitt Romney. Although he just got reelected too, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, how brave, how courageous of Mitt Romney.
And they have signed off on something that is incredibly weak. Now, the alternative could be, let's not pursue this window dressing. Let's remind the American public that the impediment to any type of progress in the killing machines that are being sold to anybody at any time that are responsible for the deaths of 40,000 people a year in this country, the only impediments to in any way restricting the sales of these killing machines are the Republican Party. I guess people can decide which they think is more important. But if you think this is going to lead to further reform, that this is one of those things, a small crack in the dam could open up a big hole, I present to you Representative Chris Jacobs of that deep, deep, deep red state, New York, where this is what happened when he came out and even mentioned any type of gun reform.
Are very reasonable.
And the backlash against you was intense from your fellow Republicans. After that, you decided that you were not going to seek another term in Congress. What has that backlash been like?
Well, I very quickly, many of the elected officials who had endorsed me for my reelection, which I think I had a very good, solid path to victory, withdrew their endorsements. Many of the committees did so as well. And so as over the next week and a half, as things heated up on that, I just felt that it would be very divisive for the party to pursue running, and also divisive because I thought there was a high likelihood of outside groups coming in, and that this issue would be the issue of the race, and it wouldn't be a productive dialogue. It would just be running ads and kind of misinformation on issues. And I really want to be a positive force on this issue so we can get meaningful change.
So I guess the obvious question is, if you want to be a positive force on the issue and you want to get meaningful change, why not stay and fight the fight? And why not send a signal that it is worth fighting for from your perch in Congress, and not saying, well, I'm going to leave because...
Well, I'm here for 7 more months, and I think there's a lot. This week,
Yeah, I can't tell people that the Republican Party is completely bat crap crazy, because this is also how I'm going to make some money.
Oh, yeah. Got to cash in later.
I'm going to slink off, but I'm also not going to not want to get some money in my bank account. I should also say, correction, Tom Tillis not retiring. He is in the column of just got reelected.
Right.
Sorry, it was my fault.
So there will be he's got like 4 years before that comes around.
And so, let's also just be clear here too. Yeah, I think his term ends at the end of 2026, I believe, from my quick Google search. The bill is so meaningless. I mean, it would have addressed in these narrow circumstances these 2 mass shooters in Buffalo, I believe, and Uvalde, given the background checks for 18 to 21. But none of this is really enforced. The red flag laws that are being proposed, more money to states to enact red flag laws. From what we understand right now, that means it's just voluntary. So most Mississippi, Tennessee, red states that already don't want to do this kind of crap, they're just going to be like, no federal mandate? Fine. We'll take your money and reallocate it elsewhere. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's an enforcement mechanism on it. And even if there is, then they just won't take the money. They won't take the money. How about these mental health services, this money that's going to go to that? We don't have universal health care in this country. Community centers. You think that's going to be allocated properly in a way that's going to actually combat this issue? I mean, frankly, as you say, the value in saying we're not going to push this garbage through might be better than voting for something that's not going to do anything.
We'll see. I mean, the House has a much more aggressive bill, and so we'll see if they can come to terms. But you mentioned the money for mental health. They're not even clear where they're going to find that. And much of this seems, even the background checks on under 21-year-olds, presumably between 18 and 21, is only contingent upon the background checks that exist in that state already.
Yeah.
And we don't know which state has any of those anyways.
And also, the average mass shooter is 30 years old. I get the need to raise an age or something like that, but that's really all that's going to do is stop the spectacle of the school slaughter, and we'll get more, grocery store ones.
Yeah,
I am convinced a federal 60-day waiting period would probably save, I don't know how to put a number on it, but 30,000 people a year kill themselves. And gosh knows how quickly they decide they get the gun and they decide to kill themselves. I don't know what the timing is.
And it's also just the manufacturing of assault weaponry, weapons of war in the United States. You have to target the selling of those kinds of weapons, or this is garbage. It's trash.